So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Tales from the Hard Side. My name's Anna, and I'll be the host for today's episode. I'd like to welcome our guests for today's webcast. We have Abigail Barnes, co-founder and CEO of Amulet, and Dipalo Ventures Managing Director Rafiq Ahmed. On today's episode, we're going to learn more about Amulet and their product journey, as well as what it takes to build a product, how shipping their product for Amulet has been thus far, and what's in store for the future. But before we do that, I want to hand it over to our guest to talk a little bit more about their personal backgrounds as well as their relationship, and then we'll dive right into it. And I just want to preface, if you have any questions throughout the course of the webcast, feel free to drop them in either the Zoom or the YouTube comment section. And with that being said, Rafiq, I'll let you begin.
Thanks, Anna. Welcome, Abby. Good to see you again. And welcome to whoever is joining us either live or will listen to this later on our YouTube channel at Demibooks. Sorry, Dipalo Ventures. I must be on the wrong startup. Hey, but before we get going, Abby, I want to play this lovely GIF at the expense of people seeing how many unread messages I have. What's going on here? Why is this girl dancing?
Oh my gosh, I'm so I've
seen Talk to us about shipping.
I've seen this GIF too many times, I think.
I think it's great.
Yeah, no, we announced yesterday that we just started shipping. So that's the box.
It's an amazing milestone. Do you have did you bring the product with you?
Yeah, I'm wearing it right now.
Let's dive right into it. That is the amulet.
This is the amulet.
And
I have the sampler. Yeah, so you have the amulet and then you have the sampler. So this is the you're gonna put the food inside of the sampler and pop it into the bottom right there. So.
And you guys are shipping testers for soy, and what's the other one? Peanuts, right?
Peanut, soy, and we just announced gluten.
You just announced gluten. That's fantastic, but gluten's not shipping just yet, right?
So in that announcement, we opened up a wait list for pre-orders.
So I like to say this is the fastest available food allergy detection kit in the market for consumers. And that's still true. Nobody's broken through since then.
Okay. Yeah, we're the fastest.
Awesome. So what was the actual ship date? I know the email went out publicly yesterday, but when did you actually ship the very first box?
Last week.
Last week. Okay. How did it feel?
To a non-investor.
Okay, sure.
So,
how did that feel?
Yeah. It was very rewarding. And yeah, it's been a long time coming. So getting that first box shipped out, I packaged it myself, put all the bells and, got everything, all the accessories. So our first pre-order kits have the wristband, the keychain, the necklace. We have a custom case, and then a box of samplers.
Yeah, and you have this very interesting sort of design ethos about the company, which I love. And I want to come back and maybe touch on that, where people sometimes talk about, well, you got to just ship it, right? And if it's too pretty, then you've done too much work. But you guys have really built a product that's a pleasure to see and interact with, an experience, as well as one that works. So it all takes time. But in terms of Amulet, first of all, I mean, you guys have changed your name. When we first invested in you from Dipalo Ventures Fund 1, you were Allergy Amulet, and now you're Amulet. So maybe we start there with the branding change. What's going on there?
I don't know if did Anna do introductions already for who we are, or are we going to do those, or does anyone
go ahead? Yeah,
sure.
I mean.
Well, I don't know what viewers know.
Viewers don't know much. So
okay.
Let's start with yourself, and then tell us about Amulet.
Well, so Amulet is now 2 brands, Amulet Scientific and Allergy Amulet. So Allergy Amulet is our consumer brand. So we have a signature wearable for consumers to test their foods at the table to find out in seconds if their dish contains allergens. And then Amulet Scientific is for food manufacturers, and it's our commercial arm to help help secure the food supply chain further up further up. So really from farm to table, detecting contaminants like herbicides. We're looking at glyphosate right now. And so we went from Allergy Amulet to Amulet. I'm the co-founder and CEO. I have a background in law and met my co-founder when I was in law school. He's a world-renowned chemist, and he is, he had the science to make this a reality. So that's sort of the backstory. And you all have been, I guess, investors now for a couple of years, right? It's been about two years
Came
now.
in 2020, spring 2020. I think I first met you at the Merchandise Mart, maybe. I don't know. It was an introduction through Desiree Vargas, who's well known in Chicago. She's now running P33 here in town. And she's a former founder, has done a couple of different things. And so she and I knew each other because I've been in Chicago tech for, I don't know, 20 plus 25 years. And I said, Demi Books, because that was where I met Desiree, and that was a 10-year-old project. We sold that in 2015. So it's interesting how these relationships in tech communities sort of keep going, and they morph in different directions. Because had she not said, "Hey, you got to meet this amazing woman, Abby Barnes, and what she's doing with allergies and detection for your first fund," and that's how we came into discussion. We talked about at that time, potentially you guys coming on to our residency. We can talk more about that later. But yeah, so it was a good fortuitous meeting, or something that just came out of nowhere because I was having lunch with Desiree. For those of you who don't know much about Dipalo Ventures, if we need to give a backdrop, we're a hard tech fund out of Chicago. We've been investing in non-coastal US, having 11 investments in our portfolio. Amulet was one of the first ones. We've been agnostic as to what sector in hard tech. We've ranged from food to materials to robotics and so forth. But what we're now also doing is working more towards climate, which is a big problem. And I think the food part of it is not as direct in the climate sense, but certainly we'll be looking at ag tech concepts of how food's produced and farm to table and concepts like that. So that's for the future. So Abby, this change with the brand, the shipping of the product, what other milestones do you feel like? I mean, 2022 has been a crazy year in some ways, but you guys have been, really now rolling out one after another in terms of wins. What's happening with the company, the size of the team? Like, have you added people? Talk to us about some of that.
Well, we just announced that we shipped. Now we're looking to grow, and we have a couple other target allergens and contaminants that we are focusing on as well. We are about to go out for a Series A this fall, and with that plan to grow the team, scale both brands, and I think that's going to be sort of the next phase is sort of this growth phase for the company. So we went from, we've done a couple of rounds. We did a pre-seed, that was more proof of concept to prototype. The seed round took us from those prototypes to manufacturing, and now we have product shipped.
And that's probably where we should start the story in terms of, like, you guys are in Wisconsin, but you didn't start there. You started in Dartmouth, or the tech came out of the R&D came out of Dartmouth.
No, yeah. So my co-founder is a Dartmouth professor, but no, we've done all of the R&D work in our own private lab in Boston. So we secured lab space back in 2016, and that was when we closed our first institutional round. And it was with that funding that we were able to really go from this proof of concept to prototype. My co-founder founded and led the first company to commercialize these types of sensors. That company has been on the market for several years now, detecting nicotine in marijuana. And I found the technology really compelling. And so we really, I guess, started out of Boston, if you were to pick a geographic location. And then we moved to Madison. So our headquarters has been in Madison since 2016.
But I remember you guys were one of few women-backed startups, that first round that we were part of, Wisconsin's numbers, and then I think you were a significant chunk of Wisconsin capital raised in 2020. I'm forgetting the actual number, but it was paltry, wasn't much.
Yeah, I'm only one of a handful of women that's raised outside VC capital over $1 million, which is pretty depressing when you look at the numbers out of New York, California. Yeah, Wisconsin ranks pretty low as far as investment dollars going to women founders.
Has that been changing at all last couple of years?
I would say if you're looking at macro trends,
without offending anyone.
There's some these weren't any, none of these questions were on the list you sent me, Rafiq.
I know, that's why I said that we're going to talk about whatever.
I prepped for the ones you sent me. I would say as far as macro trends, I think I am seeing larger funds supporting women. They've mostly been micro funds, much smaller checks out of the funds focused on supporting female founders. I think that's changed even just in the past couple of years. In Wisconsin, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement.
Chicago went to 7 billion last year before the entire market turned down. And I think Chicago still is very much reachable for Wisconsin, founders, at least in the main ecosystems, whether it's Madison, Milwaukee, there's stuff happening on the north side. So hopefully, Chicago pulls in some of that in terms of being able to fund Wisconsin startups. Okay, if you want a question that maybe should have been on the list, you have a very particular personal story for why you started this company. And I don't know if everyone, everyone that knows Amulet knows that story probably, but maybe you just want to touch on that as well. Like what led you to want to do this?
Yeah, well, so I have life-threatening food allergies. I've been hospitalized 6 times and went into anaphylactic shock when I was a teenager. And that was, from just a bite from a cookie. So yeah, this is a device that I'd always wanted to exist. I was actually surprised, it's kind of surprising something like this doesn't exist, because right now I use my body effectively as an amulet. Taking a very small bite, my body will react within about a minute or two. I'll get a bumpy lip, scratchy throat. If nuts, shellfish, peanuts, tree nuts, or shellfish are in the dish. So this device effectively allows, the amulet to take that first bite. And so this has been very much a personal, labor of love. And it's also something I think could help many millions of folks like myself have peace of mind when they eat foods prepared by others, and could potentially save lives. And every 3 minutes, a food allergy sends someone to the ER. And that's a statistic that we're trying to change.
And I think there's at least 32 million, at least, a couple of years ago, it was 32 million. It's probably gone up by now, Americans who have some sort of food allergy. And there are probably people in our audience too who are going to have some allergy or the other. So kudos to you. One of the things I alluded to earlier is this idea of building products where you either strive for perfection, you're kind of taking the Steve Jobs approach that you don't talk about it, you don't show it. And I think all design sort of is like that. And it needs to be the best as it comes out, as opposed to sometimes you've got to take this MVP approach, throw it out there. It's gonna, if it's not ugly, then you've done too much work, right? So I feel like you've always taken the more perfectionist route, and kudos to you for that, and for finally shipping. And I say finally because it is a long road. Like to be honest, like I think everybody wants to ship faster than they actually end up, right? That's just the way things work. And then the pandemic doesn't help if you're in the middle of that cycle. But what were the trade-offs? Like, is there any part of you that wishes, hey, I wish I found some shortcut or corners to cut to put the product out earlier? Like, what's that debate being like internally for you?
I mean, I think we could have gotten to market more quickly had fundraising moved faster. That is, I think I think a reality of, if you look at also just the numbers around fundraising for women too, that's part of it. But I also think, when you're pre-revenue, it can be harder to raise money. So, and this is, I think at least at the outset, you have some upfront higher capital costs than say maybe, a SaaS product, software. Manufacturing can be expensive, but we've been pretty lean. We've also really strived to not compromise on quality to the best of our abilities. I think this is a product where you can't really, it's not like a health, it's not like you're counting steps with this, right? You're detecting allergens. So we have been also focusing for a number of years really on the science side. So we kind of straddle consumer health tech and biotech. This is a detection platform. And we are starting with allergens, but we also, as you know, are detecting several environmental contaminants already.
And so from a platform standpoint, can you explain to people what the core sort of platform is for the detection and how MIP sort of technology works? I think that would be interesting for people to learn. So
it's a bit of a MIP hybrid. We use electrochemistry. So this device is a potentiostat. So we've taken basically a piece of electrochemical equipment and miniaturized it. We use pulse photometry for our measurements. The chip, so this is the sampler, which as I mentioned. So the food goes in here, and you'll pop a piece of food in there that you want to test. You remove this cuff. There's a piercer on the top right here. Puncture you can see the foil. You're going to turn, so it'll manually homogenize the food sample, and then it's going to make contact with a chip. So the technology, if you can see that, can you see that on your end, Rafiq?
Yep.
Okay, so the technology is right there on the chip, and then we're able to then read when you plug this in. Whether or not that there's a film coating that electrode, that chip, and in that film you have these cavities that are designed to bind to our target molecule. So this potentiostat can basically measure binding, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does to me. I don't know if there's any questions out there. So that same technology then can be used for really non-allergens, like you were saying, pathogens, etc. Did you get any interest for COVID-19? Is that still relevant?
Well, you know the story there. We did see some inbound interest, and we briefly considered pursuing it, but that was there was a lot of competition in that space, and even though we would have loved to have been able to support that effort, I think for us we decided not to go after COVID. We're really focused on food contaminants, but yes, we decided not to go after COVID.
Some products lend itself better than others, but this idea of getting celebrities to pitch their products, how relevant is that for what you're doing? And is that, you talked about it like casually, if we find a player, but is that part of strategy to find somebody with food allergies that could be an ambassador?
On the marketing side, it's great to have celebrities promote your product. Many celebrities have kids with food allergies, or they themselves have food allergies. So yeah, we are working that angle.
Yeah, it can't be that easy to find them for sure. And sometimes it's luck, right? Or the connections of your investors or others in the ecosystem. So Abby, appreciate you coming on and thank you for your time, and for everyone who attended. Check out Amulet. If you know someone that needs the amulet, that would actually make a very different kind of Christmas gift this year, perhaps. I would also encourage you to look at Dipalo Ventures if you are a startup that's in the hard tech realm. If you're a climate-focused startup, we'll be taking a lot of interest in those as we go forward. We're working on a second fund, but haven't announced anything publicly yet. So Anna, yeah, any last words from you? Otherwise, I think we're done.
No, I just wanted to say thank you both for joining, and especially Abby for being our special guest today. If anyone listening enjoyed this episode and wants to attend future sessions, you can use the Eventbrite link or the YouTube link shared on our social medias, and we'll be back on the third Wednesday of next month. So thank you both.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.